by the Tree. We're continuing with our 2x2 series, which is looking at each of the major arcana cards in pairs, because each of the major arcana cards, almost anyway, has a duplicate. 10 cards lie on the Tree of Life, of course, and 10 cards lie on the Tree of Knowledge. The 11 card is the balance or the scales, and the Fool card. And we'll see he is the mobile card that moves up the two trees. Today we're moving to the Death card. The other side of Death is the High Priestess, and we'll take a little look at that in a while. I think the Death and the Devil cards are the two most feared and difficult cards in the tarot deck because the words are so loaded. Just like when we looked at the pillars of severity and mercy, those words don't really imply what the concepts mean. Severity we tend to think of as a bit cruel, and mercy we tend to think of as a bit kind. Really, in terms of tarot and Kabbalah, severity means clean, and mercy means grow. Either of those extremes will limit life. The Devil card, as we've looked at before, is not the Judeo-Christian devil, Satan ruling a realm of his own. The Devil card in tarot is speaking about a psychological change that bedevils people who have too much worship. We're moving now into the Death card, and this is another one of those cards that may be difficult for people to understand. And we don't always have a lot of guidance because the usual definition of this card is change. We'll work through it now. The best way to understand this card is through the saying, the song, and the concept of the circle of life. When we see how this card combines with the partner card, we see the beginning of life, the end of life, which gives rise to more life. For now, we'll just have to leave the question unanswered. It is an unanswerable question. Where did the first living creature occur? It seems unanswerable because right now, all life has to come from some other life. Life cannot spring from inert material. All life, in a sense, exists at the expense of some other life. And we're just going through this to make that link of life producing life producing life. I don't know how it first started. We don't either. All life, in a sense, exists at the expense of some other life. Food, we must consume stuff that used to be alive. We are born from a living source, and new life only thrives on the remains of existing or previous life. I'm not a scientist, but I understand that we can produce the precursors of life from inanimate and non-organic sources. But life itself cannot rise from something that never lived. However, the first living thing evolved into existence. Something had to die to create and nourish it. The point of the Death card in tarot is that death is necessary for life. We don't know why, we don't exactly know how, but without dying, there is no cycle. Another way of looking at it. Imagine non-organic life, things that we might call the life that exists outside you, maybe like a job. You can think of that as a life or relationship, maybe an invention that you've come up with. The Death card speaks to some of these things that have maybe gone before. Could be a A failed attempt is absolutely necessary to produce a vibrant product. And that's what we're seeing in the Death card. A vibrant product will be available in your life. Its source will be something that has died. It is the death to new life aspect that we're looking at with the Devil card. It not only tells you that something new is coming into your life, it pinpoints the source. It will be coming from an unexpected source because you thought it was gone. We can look at this in real time, in real life lessons as well. If you have a breakup with somebody, there may be things you've learned through this that will be absolutely necessary for your next relationship and future relationships to thrive. Sometimes an old job and enterprise can fail, but the new job arises from the dust and ashes of that failed attempt. In a reading, the Death card means something new will appear in your life. The something new will arise from something you thought was gone, failed, or dead. We'll move to a description of the card now. In the Death card, we have a skeleton in black armor who rides upon a pale horse. And of course, this is a biblical reference. Death rides a pale horse. He is the presence of death. In the card, we see the king is already dead and uncrowned beneath the horse's hooves. The priest, previously convinced of his own immortality, prays as he awaits death. And beside the priest, a child and a mother are fully prepared to die, recognizing that it is going to happen. The armored skeleton holds a flag of the mystic rose. Weight assures us that this is a sign of new life. The mystic rose is fully ripe, signifying the end of its life, but also signifying the future life in the seeds that are ripe and ready to drop. The rose is ready to die, but also ready to scatter its seeds for new life. And that is the essence of the Death card. In the distance, we can see the twin towers of severity and mercy. We see these towers in cards like the Chariot. And scattered throughout the deck, it's the two pillars. Instead of good and bad, black and white, in Tarot and Kabbalah, the ideas are clean and grow, or severity and mercy. These two towers rise in the right-hand corner. Beneath the towers, between the towers, the rising sun represents the divine light. So life goes on. Life goes on between the extremes with the divine light shining as it always has. The priests, all dressed in gold, believed he was part of that divine light. And you can see in the card where he stands and the color. He had assumed that he was a little bit more than mortal, that he participated in the divine, but he too is about to face death. Even the loving mother and innocent child have no defense against death. The specific meaning, the Death card, is often linked with change and transformation. And it is. But the Death card lets you know that this isn't coming from outside your life, your experience, and your history. This is coming from inside. This is coming from something you had worked on that failed. And from those attempts and efforts, this new thing is going to come into your life. The position of the rider. We see the twin towers in the upper right, severity and mercy, but death is, in a sense, even beyond severity. Death in this card is to the left of the left-hand pillar. He is the ultimate in severity. He is the last word when it comes to this idea of clean or severity. In death, we know there is no recourse. There is no court of appeal. There is no second chance. In the song from The Lion King called The Circle of Life, Elton John connects the circle of life to the Wheel of Fortune card. And this is just an interesting pairing. The meaning of the Wheel of Fortune card is there's a certain youth, a certain naivety, where imagination fills in for lack of knowledge. And the whole meaning of this card is that you are being confronted with forces beyond your control. This is an interesting, I think, insightful connection. The Death card depicts all manner of human inevitability brought down by death. And by relating it to the Wheel of Fortune, it puts death in that ultimate position of being beyond our efforts to change or to defeat. The Death card is also just a little bit of a tug at our memory. It's an appreciation for those still alive. And that's one of the realizations that death brings. All life is fragile and fleeting. There is the idea, the concept of the inevitable. There may be a message in the Death card that advises us sometimes to let it die. This is not the prime meaning of the card. The prime meaning of the card is something new is coming into your life from a source that you thought was dead and gone. But just something to keep in mind, that striving to avoid death is not always the best practice. I think the Death card advises us sometimes to let it die. A relationship, a failed business, a pet in great suffering, anything like that. Death will allow new life, and prolonging the dying time may not always be the best answer. These are just, I think, small lessons, little memory tugs at our imagination to be able to remember things. And I think the Death card does give us a certain gratitude for all that is still in existence. We also see a magnifying effect in the Death card. Sometimes there is the idea of fame or the martyr effect, and death can bring to light and keep alive the memory of a person. We also have the idea that the card is number 13, and we have that bad luck number in our consciousness now. Death is often seen more as our own personal loss rather than remorse for the deceased. And I think that's partly where this bad luck comes from. Rather than seeing the big picture, we internalize it in kind of a selfish way sometimes. In a reading, I would say something like this. I've turned over the Death card, and we're looking at this as part of a person's fortune. I would say something new is arising in your world. It is a good thing. The source of this new good thing is an essence or entity you thought was gone forever. Look back to a failed venture, a lost friend, or someone who has died. From this source, you will gain a new and growing aspect in your life. Finally, let's look at the altar image of the Death card. We have Hakma, and we looked at that. That is on both trees. On the tree of knowledge, Hakma is the Death card. Joss, do you have those cards? Can I just have those back for a second? Hatma on the tree of life, as we've looked at, is the High Priestess. The High Priestess brings out the balance, makes the two pillars, creates the polarity of the sexes, and releases everything into the universe. Before it was just ideas, and now it's all manifest, good and bad, everything. There is no judgment. All things become present. The mirror, not the mirror image, almost the alter image of the creation of all things is the inevitable end of all things. But it is not just a straight line, as we've mentioned, it is a cycle or a circle. And they are linked because it's only through the death that new life can be formed. Keter at the very top is all ideas. The High Priestess is all elements and their combos, including living things. Death grants the ability of living things to germinate new living things. It is not life until it dies and it's gone. It is life until it dies and new life forms. The High Priestess, combined with the Death card, is the tarot explanation of the circle of life. Okay, Jocelyn, why don't we look at some of the questions?
Should I fear the death card?
I think we have covered it. No. Anytime you're doing a reading, fortune telling for somebody, when the death card comes up, or the devil, as we've mentioned, but especially the death card, you're likely to get a reaction of dismay from the person. And that's where we say the death card means something good is coming your way. It may surprise you at first, but this gift will come from a source you thought was dead and gone. So that's how I would frame it. And it is not something to be afraid of. It is a good thing, just coming from a source you might not have considered.
How is death not just the end?
We don't exactly know. And you might think that they were wrong, except all life has to come from a source that was once living. That's the missing link. We cannot create life as much as we try with space dust and electricity and cosmic rays or whatever. We get the precursors of life, but we cannot get a living entity. It seems that there is a connection with death that makes life. We have no idea how the first life could have ever come to be in such a system. But the whole point of the death card in the tarot is that it is the womb or the incubator of life.
And Kabbalah says that life came existence from absence.
And it seems so, counter instinctive or intuitive, but yep, that's what the cards say.
Does the death card simply mean change?
No, doesn't mean simply change, or it does. Let's say the death card does mean simply change, but it gives you more information than that. It tells you where this change is coming from. It's not coming from outside of you. It is coming from part of your history. And we've said all life is born from what was once alive, and all life consumes other life. We have this sort of, in our subconscious, we say they passed on. And that's like we have the feeling that their essence is somewhere. The idea of life as energy that can't be extinguished or destroyed, only changed. That's another aspect of the endurance of life. And the saying, it's always darkest just before dawn. And the sun in a card, death does not diminish the light of life.
Can death have the effect of preserving someone's life?
Yeah, definitely through things like fame, and we mentioned the martyr effect. A lot of lives would maybe carry on and not be known, but for some people, death has brought their intellect into the light.
I always find the death card and the devil card scary. Are the two cards related in some way?
What number is that one?
5.
Okay. Yes and no. Yes, all the cards represent the divine or universal presence in its various incarnations from the top of the tree to the bottom. We are looking at the life force of the universe being diminished down to our level. So, yes, in that all the cards do represent the universal presence. It's no, because the devil card represents a psychological change that occurs if someone is worshipped or adored. The devil card is what happens in a person. It's a natural force of their personality and psychology. It happens when they get more than their due of adoration and respect. If that happens for too long, that person has a little psychological imbalance where they become dependent on worship. The devil card is a much larger card than that. It's not really talking about our psychology. It's talking about the very essence of life. And it's saying that death is not the end. It is a component on life, and that the circle of life is a concept that illustrates that one comes from the other.
Sarah Williams says hello.
Hi, Sarah.
And she asks that I notice that the pillars in the death card are the same as the ones in the moon card.
Yeah.
Does this mean anything? I put the moon card away.
Absolutely. And earlier on, I said the chariot, and I was mistaken because the moon is the other side of the chariot. Thank you, Sarah. And I did make a mistake here. And they are the same pillars. And if you can compare the two. I thought at first that the two pillars, well, I still think this, represent those omnipresent pillars of Kabbalah, of mercy and severity. Linking the death card to the moon card, I would have to think about that. I'm sure there is some relationship. The relationship I see just off the top of my head is the moon card is, in a sense, the death of intellect. It's when emotion just rules. I don't know if that's what the similarity is or not, but that's very interesting.
Cobalt is asking, what is the difference in the way the death creates and the way the Empress creates?
Okay. Do I have the Empress card? Well, it doesn't matter. We know what the Empress card is the third card. And the Empress card takes everything and recombines it in a way that nobody has ever seen. It's like taking some dust and ending up with a nuclear reactor. Or it's like taking a bunch of dirt and refining it and having the Starship Enterprise. Just give me that question one more time.
What is the difference in the way the death creates and the way the Empress creates?
The Empress is the prime creator. She's the mystery. She is where life comes seemingly from non-life. This is a very big picture. She is part of the supernal triad, and this is life into our universe, the very beginning of life and the polarity of the two pillars. The death card, and this is interesting because even as I'm talking, I'm starting to think maybe you're onto something, because they are both creating where the Empress is creating a new kind of life. The death card is a cycle. There's nothing new in the picture. It is a continuation of life from a source. And we mentioned to a womb or something like that, but we can think of in a very strange way death is the nurturer, where Bina, or the Empress, is the creator. That's what I think. But these are great questions, and I would definitely need a lot more time to think about them. Okay, I think that's it for today. Hope that helps with the Devil card and removes some of the scariness from it. This is a card that has to do with the circle of life, and I think the Lion King song really had an interesting take on it when they compared it to the Wheel of Fortune. Have a great day. We'll see you next Wednesday.